Hey guys, how's it going? Jackie Felix here, coming at you with part 2 out of 3 of the complete guide to Wizard. This video will be focusing on Wizard mechanics and we'll be going through some of the more complex topics that kind of separate the average to good wizards in BDO. And yeah, a lot of people think that Wizard is a relatively simple class without that much complexity to it. This may be true if your sole purpose on Wizard is to just go into RBF and spam Awaken skills. It is true there isn't that much complexity in that regards. However, Wizard does have a lot of in-depth mechanics, as you'll realize at the end of this video. And after we go through some of the important topics today, such as how to utilize mouse movement teleports, understanding the difference between greater super armors and lesser super armors, how to efficiently transition between awakened and unawakened stances, also utilizing your lingering frontal guard and super armor animations, how to properly animation cancel your skills, understanding how pet stiffens and work in BDO, and also the difference between your fire and water pet. And yeah, I think that'll be most of the topics we'll be covering through today. This will be a relatively long video. I decided to split this complete guide, into 3 parts because I felt like the wizard mechanics and the 1v1s, putting them together will be too long. So yeah, sit back and relax, and I hope you guys learned something useful and enjoy the footage in the background. I'm fighting a fellow guildie, Oliva, who's recently joined Black Rose. He's also a very skilled wizard as well. Has a lot of knowledge in terms of the mechanics of wizard. So I feel like this would be a good video to place in the background, and a lot of the mechanics I'm talking about you'll see in play in practical application in this video. So yeah. Alright, so first thing, let's start off talking about teleports. Teleport is basically the bread and butter skill for Witch and Wizard, and this skill is your only form of protected movement and iframe. It is important to know when to use your teleport and when not to, as if you blow the skill early, it will leave you with next to zero movement and also easily picked off by either grab class or a skirmisher class. Now, understanding the range of your teleport is important both for 1v1s as well as large scale and small scale PvP. And a mechanic a lot of people are not aware of with teleport is that teleporting in your unawakened stance will often result in a shorter range teleport, whereas teleporting in your awakened stance will result in your teleport going further. However, there's also another noticeable difference between these two teleports where your unawakening teleport kind of goes off faster and your awakening teleport goes off slightly slower. However, the difference is not too noticeable, but it is to the point where it is noticeable. So this is important to take note of, especially in 1v1s. Alright, now you guys kind of understand the difference between the unawakened and awakened teleports. We'll now go through kind of the 3 methods you can utilize to activate your teleport. So the first method is basically using the S plus C key combination for your teleport. And what this does is it basically teleports you from either awakened or unawakened stance, and at the end of your teleport animation, it will swap you to the different stance that you weren't originally in. So, for example, if you were in unawakened stance and you press the SC teleport, your result end up being in your awakened stance. This is true for the opposite. So obviously, if you're teleporting in awakened stance with the SC teleport, you'll come out of it with in your unawakened form. So yeah, this can be useful in a multitude of situations. And we'll go through that more in depth, especially in the 1v1 matchups. But yeah, as long as you guys are aware of this SC teleport. Alright, so the next teleport is the shift plus spacebar teleport, and basically this is similar to SC teleport, but you won't switch stances. So if you teleport in your unawakened stance, you'll come out of unawakened stance, and if you teleport in your awakened stance, you'll come out in your awakened stance. Now, both the SC teleport and the shift space teleport, you can animation cancel out of skills using these teleports, but we'll have a specific section in this video going through animation cancel, so we'll go through that at a later stage. But essentially, the third method to teleporting, which is to hotbar the skill and activate it that way. What I do usually is if I'm grinding, I'll utilize my teleport using a mouse key. But just taking note that using the teleport off a hotbar will not allow you to animation cancel out skills. So that is a very important thing you need to take note of. And usually this will result you in your teleport taking a little bit longer time to cast. And this is also similar to Raban Fireball as well, the Shift X. So yeah, again, we'll talk about the Raban Fireball later in the animation cancels. Alright, cool. So the next topic I want to go through after the teleport mechanics is how to effectively transition between your awakened and unawakened stances. And this is an important wizard mechanic, especially in 1v1s and small scale PvP. This is because learning how to do this efficiently will minimize the amount of time you spend transitioning between your unawakened and awakened stances, and also vice versa. So this will really give you an edge, kind of in all forms of PvP. So let's start off transitioning between your unawakened stance to your awakened stance. There's essentially two main swaps for this. The first one is the W plus C swap, and I refer to this as a front guard swap. And the important thing to note about this WC swap is that you are able to linger your front guard for upwards of 4 to 5 seconds. So this is a really powerful swap, and if you're unfamiliar with this mechanic, you should really try to understand how to use your front guard properly, as knowing how to use this will allow you to outtrade your opponents and play reactively, and also be able to block some of their range CC or their abilities and quickly cast a ability back at them to try to get a catch. Now, the second swap is the A plus C or D plus C side swap. Now, you're not able to linger this front guard swap unlike your WC. However, this swap I can refer to as the quick swap, and basically this allows you to quickly transition from between unawakened to awakened stance with essentially half a second to a second of protected frontal guard. And yeah, understanding how to use this swap properly without doing the slow swap, because that can oftentimes happen, is an important skill to learn in regards to doing your 1v1 combos, and also in large scale as well. If you need to quickly swap between weapon stances, this is also the way to go when you're transitioning from unawakened to awakened stances. Alright, so now we've covered how to properly transition from unawakened to awakening stances. We'll go the opposite route, so going from awakening to unawakened. Now, the thing about this mechanic is that, especially with Wizard, a lot of your, or majority of your unawakened skills, which can be hotbarred, will automatically transition you over to unawakened stance without you having to do the initial C swap. So what I mean by this, if you hotbar a skill like Meteor, if you hotbar a skill like Fireball, or skills such as Healing Aura, or your buffs like Speed Spell, you'll be able to immediately transition over to Unawakened stance. And I believe most people know about this mechanic, and it's important to learn and familiarize yourself with this mechanic, because it will really help yourself and your team being able to quick cast skills such as heals and buffs, and also being able to have access to your unawakened super armors without having to initially do the C swap animation. Now, the exceptions to this rule are usually skills like protected area, where you cannot hotbar the skill. So, therefore, you will need to do the C swap from awakening to unawakened stances before you can cast skills like protected area. However, there's also another skill which is called Healing Aura, and now this is your one tick burst heal. And essentially, even if you hotbar the skill and you cast it in Awakening form, you'll stay in the you won't transition over to an unawakened form essentially. So yeah. Alright, so next I'll go over and talk about mouse movements. Now, this mechanic is more of an advanced mechanic, and it will take you a lot of practice and time to familiarize yourself with the mouse movement mechanic with Wizard. But I feel like this is a really useful skill and tool to learn, especially in 1v1s. However, this mechanic is also important for large scale, as you'll find out later. We'll go through some of the uses for mouse movements outside of just teleports. But yeah, let's get started. Now, to initially activate your mouse movements, you'll need to go to your settings and then go to your interface settings and then click on mouse interface, and you need to activate used mouse to move. Now, essentially, to once you've done that, to activate your mouse cursor in BDO, you'll need to press the default control key. Now, you can choose to bind this key to another button or mouse button. However, I find just using on control is comfortable enough. So for myself personally, I don't see the need to rebind this button to something else. All right, so let's talk about teleports first. I'm sure if you guys have seen some of my PvP montage or my PvP videos out there, you'll see me utilizing this mechanic a lot. So essentially, activating a mouse movement teleports or using this mechanic will allow you to teleport in a directional path that isn't a straight line. So you can kind of, curve your teleports, teleport back in place, doing half teleports, and really use this to juke out your opponents and outplay your opponents. Because oftentimes, when your opponents see you teleport, they'll kind of just expect you to go in towards the direction you're facing. So if, for example, say they're engaging you and you do a mouse movement teleport back in place, it's very easy for you to land a grab or a CC and really turn the back on your opponent and possibly secure yourself a kill. Additionally, this once you pull this off successfully, it will look really good. And for myself personally, it's really fun to do mouse movement teleports. Yeah. Alright, so apart from using mouse movement teleports, I believe the bigger use for mouse movements is especially with rotating your super armor skills. This is especially important in some 1v1 matchups and also large scale because it minimizes the amount of back attack damage you receive. So fighting classes like Sork or, for example, Musa, this is really important mechanic. Essentially, what you want to do when you activate mouse movements for your super armor skills is to tap the control key to activate the mouse movements, redirect the positioning of the skill, especially for skills like Bolide. You can kind of you can affect where they land and who they hit. And then make sure before the animation finishes or the skill lands, you press the control key again. Because essentially, if you don't press the control key at the end of it, you won't be able to linger any of your, for example, your Cataclysm or your Bolide of Destruction. You won't be able to linger those skills because you'll just move forward. But yeah, mouse movements basically a mechanical wizard, which essentially every good wizard understands this mechanic and kind of how to play around it against your opponent. And if you would like to practice this use of mouse movements, what I would suggest is to just use this while you're grinding between packs and try to do some funky teleports and try to get down the accuracy of teleports. And if you want to, another method of practicing this is if you just go to Ballerina. I think Rujinx gave me this tip as well. If you just go to Ballerina and make sure you're overweight, so either 125%, 150%, and just practice teleporting on the dummies and landing next to them and grabbing them. And essentially, it's a lot of time you need to spend practicing and familiarizing yourself with this mechanic. However, once you get it down, it'll really be happy that you spent the time mastering this mechanic. So yeah. So yeah, the next topic we'll go through is lingering your front guard and super armors. So lingering your front guard swap, such as your WC swap, and lingering your super armor animations, such as Bolide of Destruction or Cataclysm, will provide you against will give you advantage against certain matchups in 1v1 and both large scale PvP. This is because it will provide you with additional time where you don't need to put in key inputs and kind of just really look at what your opponent is doing and play reactively or proactively in regards to this. And additionally, it will allow a lot of your other skills which are on cooldown and give them additional time for those important skills to come off cooldown while you're lingering these front guards and super armors. You're also able to use this mechanic to kind of outplay your opponents who are not too familiar with your class. For example, if they believe that you are in unprotected stance after using a skill such as Bolide or WC swap, they might blow some important skills during that phase, and you'll be able to really take advantage of that. And you'll also be able to animation cancel out of the front guard and super arm animations. And we'll go through this more in depth in what we're about to talk about next, which is animation cancels. Okay, so the next topic I want to go over quickly is combos. Now, I did make an in-depth guide and video on the various forms of wizard combos, especially 1v1s. So I'll recommend you check out that video. But the essential fundamentals of wizard combos are that you want to, the first CC you land, you can either land a freeze, a KD, a grab, or a bound. However, usually want to follow up the second CC with a KD. This will basically most of the time ensure that you secure yourself the kill. So example of this can be that you double teleport and you grab someone and you do your MMA into dagger stab cancel, into Raban fireball cancel, and your Raban fireball will land the KD. And afterwards that, you'll go into your Hellfire and finish off with your Cataclysm or your Chilling Wave. And essentially, between each KD, you should be able to get at least 2 skills off. This does include awakened skills as well. If you're doing unawakened skills with animation cancels, you can get up to 4 skills off. For example, you can do fireball. Sorry, you can do a lava pool, put down lava pool into a fireball, into MMA, and then Rabam cancel. So that's kind of 4 skills, but they're really fast, unlike your awakening skills. So yeah. Check out the video. It has all majority of the combos for Wizard in there. Usually when Wizard asks for which areas I can improve in after 1v1, I'll usually say that you can work on in combos because most of the times they should have that kill secured, but they might do a scuff combo, for example, chaining one KD into another KD too fast, and that results in them being unable to kill me, whereas they should have if they placed additional filler damage in between those KDs. Alright, so branching off from combos into animation cancels, and they kind of part of it is in line with each other. And knowing how to do your animation cancels, they're important. So to maximize the amount of DPS you do both in endgame PvE and PvP. Learning how to do combos correctly and animation cancels will help you kill those really tanky targets with a lot of DP and a lot of DR or evasion. And as mentioned before, they'll allow you to cancel out of your lingering animations, your front guard and your super armor lingering animations, and this will allow you to potentially catch your opponents or reposition to cast another skill. Now I'll go on and mention some of the various skills you can use to cancel out of other skills. So essentially, Earth Response, Rabam Fireball using the Shift X combination, the two teleports, the S plus C teleport and the Shift plus Place teleport. These skills all provide you with the ability to cancel out of other abilities that you will usually be locked in animation. For example, your unawakened super armors such as Frigid Fog or Earthquake. Um, Skills such as Meteor, Blizzard, and your lingering animations as well. So essentially, being able to animation cancel, especially in 1v1s, is extremely important because it will allow you to catch your opponents off guard and really give you the advantage over your opponent. Additionally, using the key combination teleports will allow you to iframe immediately after casting a ranged CC. So if you see yourself potentially being caught by a ranged CC, you can initially first cast your range CC. For example, you can throw out a water sphere or a freeze or a fireball and then immediately SC teleport or shift space teleport. And this will not only make it so that you iframe their ranged ability and not in return not get CC'd, but also your ranged projectile will still have a chance to CC your opponent. And essentially in return, this will allow you to set up for either you can try to earth response your opponent from behind or try to go for a sneaky grab, teleport grab. Alright, so the kind of last topic I want to go over for Wizard, and this also applies to Witch, is your pet stiffens. So essentially, pet stiffens, they're a mechanic in for Witch Wizards, where it allows them to activate a special attack for the pet, which will in turn launch a ranged projectile, which stiffens the target selected. This is powerful because a lot of opponents you're fighting, especially in 1v1s, will not look for your pet and where your pet is positioned. So this will give you the opportunity to really catch them from behind if they're in the front guard skill, or if they're just not expecting a CC to come out from your pet. And how you can activate your pet stiffen or target your pet stiffen on your opponent is to essentially make sure your pet is summoned first and that the skill is set on one of your hotbars, and all you need to do to activate the wind up animation for pet stiffen is to right click your opponent, and essentially you need to make sure your pet is in range of your opponent when you activate the special attack. And once it's locked on, your pet will launch a ranged projectile after a certain amount of time. And yeah, that's essentially how it works. Now, the pet stiffen is really more of a 1v1 mechanic. You won't really be using this too much in large scale or even small scale PvP that much. And in 1v1s, especially casters who understand how pets work and how pet stiffness works, make it extremely difficult matchup to fight against. And essentially, what you want to do with the pet stiffen and the pet is to position your opponent between yourself and your pet. So essentially, they're either forced to cast super arm skills, which in return you can slow them with your retardano, or they'll either get CC'd through their front guard, or they'll just get CC'd out of unprotected skills. And yeah, essentially the pet stiffen's really powerful mechanic in 1v1s, and you should definitely spend time trying to learn and master how to use your pet efficiently and where to position him. Oh, and another thing I want to point out is that for awakening skills especially, if you use a skill which has a flow attached to it, so for example, Aqua Gel, Chilling Wave, Hellfire, or Cataclysm, this will basically desummon your pet and bring him back to your location. So if you wind up a pet stiffen, be sure to not use Awakening skill with a pet flow attached to it because it will cancel out the special attack essentially. And yeah, lastly, we'll just kind of go through the differences between Marg and Arn. So Marg is your fire pet, and he's more of a melee range pet. And your Arn is your water pet, and its auto attacks are ranged attacks. So essentially, the difference between Marg and Arn is that Marg has a shorter um, aggro range and also a shorter de-aggro range, whereas Arn has a longer aggro and de-aggro range. So essentially, the way this compensates is that Marg's pet special or wind up time is a lot shorter than Arn. So essentially, with Marg, you're able to catch out your opponents a lot faster, whereas Arn, it kind of takes a couple seconds for the pet to wind up the animation to launch the stiffness. And the other difference is that Marg does a lot more DPS than Arn, since Marg is a melee, needs to be melee to attack your opponents, even though the range projectile for the special attack is a range ability. Its autos are in melee, and it has relatively fast melee attacks, whereas Arn has slow ranged attacks. And also another advantage that Marg has over Arn is that Marg is easier to position around yourself, and it also has a larger hitbox compared to Arn. So when you're fighting classes, let's say for example Ranger or Archer or even Witch Wizard, and they're throwing ranged projectiles at you, oftentimes you're able to reposition your pet between um, in front of you so that they take several of the abilities that would usually be directed towards you. So yeah, that's another important mechanic you can use with your pet. But yeah, essentially that's about all the main wizard mechanics I wanted to go through today. And in addition to that, I'll also be currently working on a very long document or guide in covering through all basically everything about wizard. Starting off from gear progression, skill builds, and all that stuff, and then go on towards the more complex topics such as wizard mechanics, and then eventually go on to 1v1s. I expect the document to be more than 40 or 50 pages. It's already like roughly 20 pages long, and I've only have wording in there without any images or video files or GIFs. So yeah, it's going to be a really big document. It will probably be out in a couple weeks. There's a lot of work I still need to do with it. This includes proofreading, getting the video files ready, and also just polishing everything up. So yeah, expect that guide out to be soon. But yeah, overall, I hope you guys enjoyed the guide and found this useful. I know it's a lot of talking and a lot of information to take in, but essentially, if you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to come and ask me in Discord or come contact me on Twitch when I'm streaming live. And as always, links are in the description below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I wish you guys a lovely day, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.